All right, what's good, Planeswalker team? So, here is my deck tack slash breakdown, everything I know, mostly, a lot of it, some of it, on Esper Doom. This is where my list is at currently. It's come a long way. The deck really has so few bad matchups. Rule seems like a great matchup. Rogues even seems like a great matchup. Rakdos is good. I'm a little afraid of Rakdos sometimes. Sometimes they just kind of get you, but still winning. Turn off those pop-ups, but whatever. If you guys don't know already, you should check out the Planeswalker Diaries. Okay, so let's jump into it. The list is pretty tight. Um, you know, there's not a lot of wiggle room. There's some though. So one of the things I've been thinking about that I think I want to do is I think I want to go down to one dance in the main, and I'm going to add a Bloodchief's Thirst. Danny doesn't like them. I found them to be very good for me. They've been very good. Killing things on turn 1 has been very important. Being able to double spell on turn 3 or turn 4 has been very important. Card just does a lot of work. Or even just later in the game, even there's been times on turn 6 where I need to kill something and then play a 5-drop or what have you. Sometimes you even go 3-2-1. It happens. Dance of the Manse, not good against Gruul. I like it against rogues, but the deck's really fallen off, and I don't feel like it's been overly necessary to win. Basically, if you just survive, you tend to win a lot of your matches. So I focus a lot on early interaction, being able to kill their creatures early. We got Heartless Act, we got Eliminate, we got Glass Casket, we got Bloodchief's Thirst. It's really important to have removal early, turns 1 and 2 against Gruul and Rogues. That's why I'm kind of maxed out there. Rakdos, kind of the same. Again, how I lose to Rakdos typically is you get run over. Occasionally, they'll get you in the late game. It's happened. Even there, though, Dance, a little bit slow. So I thought about going 0 Dance. I like to have 1 in the deck. There's a lot of cards that I like just have access to. Elspeth's Nightmare is another one that I might have 1 of or 2, because you do end up drawing a lot of cards. And something like Dance in the late game is, can just be insane, can be backbreaking. And so because you draw all these cards, you'll get in the late game. There are times when you'll just kind of flood out a little bit, or you'll want that that Yorion or Dance or whatever it is, that kind of big action spell to just seal the deal, put the game away. I don't mind having 1 Dance. Could go 0. Things like the Mirror go extremely long. Dance can be very good there. Not always, though. Sometimes things aren't going into your graveyard. So I'm gonna go 1 right now in the main. Negate or possibly Mystic Dispute. The decks that are kind of rising up that could give us a little bit of trouble are like Ramp. So Teamer Ramp with Ugin, I find to be, if you have enough counterspells, I don't like. They only have 4 Ugin. Sometimes they only play 2 Ugin now, and then 4 of the Ultimatum. And so if you just counter those, you typically just win. So we have a bunch of card draw and counters. I could see putting some Shark Typhoons back into the sideboard. I'd cut them, but if we're going to be playing this counter, Drago or strategy against these decks, then having access to things like Shark Typhoon so that you can keep your mana open and in turn make a threat and never have to go shields down kind of thing is sort of important. It's like a game plan that comes together. So this is sort of what I'm looking at right now. I need to test it out a little bit more, but if you ran this weekend, I think you'd be good. The one thing, obviously, I'm gonna clean up the sideboard. I'm gonna go over the individual cards and matchups. One thing that I'm not 100% on is the mana base. It's been fine for me. I haven't had any issues with it. It's maybe even been more than fine because it's like a lot of times I'm like, I'll have like a temple and like a swamp or a plains or something, and I always seem to find my blue source. Very, very rare that I run into mana troubles, especially we have 4 golden egg also now. So I don't think I've lost any games really to mana trouble. So I'm hesitant to touch it because it's been working. So like, why fuck with it? I know some people go for Emeria's Call. Danny likes 3. I could see 3. Kind of okay with 2. Thing is, I just keep winning. So there's not a lot of incentive for me to change things up, right? I would hate to change something up and then like lose because of it. That's a piss off. The other deck, the mono red Ugin ramp deck. Apparently, when you look at the stats over the weekend, did not do particularly well in general, but didn't particularly do particularly well against Gruul or Esper. So I don't know if it was players playing it or different Esper lists or the way that I was playing. I played it 3 times. I think I beat it once and lost twice with different lists. Once I didn't have like eliminates main. I had 1 mauling, so lands were an issue. I think this list, got a couple negates in the main. Got now the eliminates, the maulings. I think it will do better. Also, that deck just like, we're beating Gruul, we're beating Rogues, we're beating Rakdos. The mirror, we're still fine against the mirror. It's, I don't think we're overly weak against the mirror. The other Yorion lists are a joke. Don't play those. Blue, white, green, white, black, white, red. Don't. I will give you the hug of death, then escort you out of the team, and then tell you I'm just joking and escort you back into the team. Because let's be real. Bad jokes aside. Okay. Let's jump into. I'm gonna jump into the matchups because I kind of want to go over the matchups while I'm tweaking the deck a little bit. Against Gruul, I moved the Angels to the sideboard. Just because I found that I was winning a lot of games against them that I just didn't even need the Angel. So against Gruul, pay close attention. The key to beating Gruul is don't let them have a creature in play that they can drop a henge off of. So like they're 3 drops basically. You just always need to keep the 3 drops off the board. Occasionally their elemental can go like Fabled Passage into a 5/5, dropping a henge. Kind of rare though. That's like on turn. I guess it would have to be on turn 4. They would have to have Fabled Passage and henge, which typically they're Fabled Passaging hitting you on 3. It's a rare situation that happens, but basically you always need to be removing their 3-drop. You can't leave a mammoth or a giant or a Lovestruck Beast in play. I think that's all of them. Is there anything else? Questing Beast, obviously, also might be the best card against us. You have to remove them. So you remove the main phase, pass back to them. And then as long as you do that, they can't drop henge. Even Innkeeper, I'm a little hesitant to kill sometimes if it's going to mean that they're going to be able to untap with a creature in following turns, because they only typically play 8 adventure creatures. So, the odds of them drawing more than 1 card are somewhat slim. So it's not really, and like even if they do draw a couple, like 2 cards, like that's not how we lose really. Like if we survive to the late game, like okay, you drew 2 cards, like that's cute. Like okay, like we're built of card advantage. Okay. So we're able to bring back that parity and pass them again, no problem. So kill their creatures at all cost. The 3 drops especially. Prioritize staying alive and not taking damage over card advantage. If you have a slow hand, if you know you're playing against Gruul, if you don't have any if you don't have any interaction on turn 2, if you cannot kill a creature on turn 2 against them, seriously consider mulliganing that hand. That's how important it is. If you're on the play it's not so bad. Especially like if you have an Omen to see, okay, you can go dig or like an egg, or if you have turn 3 removal like apparition on the play, well then if they play their 3-drop, you can still kill it before before they can henge. Also, the problem, what happens when you're on the draw is like they'll play a 1 or 2 drop, and then they play their 3-drop, and then on turn 3 you kill it with like an apparition, or even just a removal spell that you drew. But then they're going to keep playing a big creature because they just have so many, and you have to keep killing that big creature to keep them off hedge. And their 1 and 2 drop just keep hitting you and keep hitting you and keep hitting you. And that incremental damage just gets you, even if it's a couple 1/1s. It just takes you so long to get to the point where you can double spell or deal with those creatures effectively. Like they're just going to deal a lot of damage to you. So really be mindful of that. So yeah, I felt like I didn't need the Angels. I was winning enough. I'd rather shore up some of the other matchups. I do have them on the board currently because they are still pretty good. Possible, but they're just not needed. Though they do still do work. In the games that I played against Seth yesterday, he was on the play game 2, and I was getting beat down pretty bad. And Baneslayer just kind of like he didn't have an answer to it, and he ended up having like eight creatures in play or something ridiculous. And the Baneslayer was able to just gain me a bunch of life and hold off his team for forever, which I don't think other cards would have been able to do. Extinction Event. There's some things to be said about Extinction Event. We could have some in the main, but again, I'm not having troubles beating a lot of the decks, so kind of like in the board for now. So yeah, that's Gruul. To sideboard against Gruul, you bring in 3 Baneslayers, 2 Extinction Events, and the 1 Elspeth's Nightmare. I guess we do need to clean up this sideboard. I think we could cut a dance. Go with that for now. I think that's fine. So you bring in 3 Baneslayers, 2 Extinction Events, Elspeth's Nightmare. A Nightmare is not nearly as good on the draw as it is on the play against basically everything, including like Rakdos, Rogues. It's really a lot less impressive. So you want to take out, against Gruul, you take out 3 Blessings, take out the Dance, and the 2 Negates. That's 6 cards, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Easy piece. Matchup's good. Matchup is good. Play some matches with it. You know, they are tricky. There's different variations of it. Timing on things is important when you're doing everything, when you're omening, when you're bringing Yorion into your hand. There's a lot of you know, you need to know when to sequence. Sequencing very, very important. Just put in the reps though. I'm obviously here to help you. You can watch some of my videos. Okay, moving on. We do Rogues next. Rogues I've found to actually be a pretty decent matchup, surprisingly. What ends up happening is now that we have all this early removal, like you're just killing their stuff right away. Like they might get off 1 hit or like 1 attack or 1 activation or something off of their creatures, but like it's really hard for them to empty to mill you effectively. And if they can't mill you enough, and obviously be very mindful of your graveyard and when cards are going there and how many cards you have in your graveyard. You obviously want to keep below 7 or 8, depending on what cards you're worried about. And the story triggers off 7, whereas a lot of them creatures trigger off of 8. I will say that the new, I don't know if they're new, but the non-Lurus version of the deck, I have actually struggled against a little bit. I think just because I was ill prepared for, like, they play differently. The strategy that you use against that list is different. You can't just like kill all their stuff because they have like Shark Typhoons and they have Zareths. I forget what else they have, but they have some other they have more counter spells. So that matchup is a little trickier, and you should definitely give it a try. If you're afraid of rogues, I would definitely suggest putting a second Cling to Dust. It does so much work in the matchup. I ended up cutting one just because I was beating rogues already, and rogues are just on the decline. So I doubt you'll see much rogues, really. You could easily put a second Cling to Dust though. Cut a Dance, maybe cut an Ugin. I'm not really sure about those. The sideboard against rogues with this build, you want to be exiling their creatures. So I'm going to go with Lurus. I'm going to tell you about Lurus rogues because I played against that deck a lot. So I think you want 2 Extinction Event, 1 Treacherous Blessing, 1 Elspeth's Nightmare, 3 Mystical Dispute, and Clean to Dust. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards coming in. Oh, also the Dance. So 9 cards coming in. You take out 2 ECDs. Actually, you know what? We don't have Baneslayer Idols. I think you take out all 4 ECDs. Heartless Act. And let's see, 3 more Heartless Act. 8. No, this is a ghetto way of doing it. And a Hagra Mauling. Four ECD, 4 Heartless Act, 1 Mauling. Making sure. If they have Shark Typhoons and stuff, maybe some Thirsts might come out for some Heartless Acts. It could also be Thirst. On the player draw, think about Thirst. Obviously, if you're on the draw, you prefer to have Thirst. If you're on the play, then you can have Heartless Act. It's better because it's instant. You can hit their creature at the end of their turn. The only problem with Heartless Act is if they play something like the spell that brings back up to 2 creatures with 3 converted mana cost, then it puts counters on them, and you can't kill those. But if they don't have, if Heartless Act kills everything, then you probably want that over Thirst. Again, no, killing enforcers and stuff with 1 mana, very important. So I would err towards Heartless Act, ECD, and 1 Mauling for those cards. Next matchup, go with Rakdos. Rakdos is a tough one. You definitely want Elspeth's Nightmare, probably Cling to Dust, maybe Dance, maybe Extinction Event. It really depends because there's so many different Rakdos lists. You probably want to cut Negate and maybe a couple ECDs, maybe just 3 ECDs. Could be 2 ECDs and like a Heartless Act. Really just depends on what their build looks like. Just try to tailor your removal to them as much as you can. But something in there makes sense. Next up is the Mirror. Oh yeah, and against Rakdos, you definitely want to try not to get run over early. Again, so many different builds. You gotta be ready for a lot of things. But the matchup's generally good. Things like Treacherous Blessing, Doom Foretold, pretty good against them. Also, Sniper's okay. Dance of the Manse, setting up a big dance is good. You kind of want to set up some big value because they grind really hard. Their deck can grind really, really hard, and they can grind you out. Their discard spells can really hit you. If they get you at the right time, they get like a certain piece of your deck. That can suck. So look for setting up big Yorions, remove their stuff, set up big Yorion turns, big dance turns, try to get Dooms down. Sometimes Doom can be a problem also if they're playing the 3/1 that comes back from the graveyard. So it's a tricky matchup. It's not like a buy by any means. So give it the respect that it deserves. The Mirror. In the Mirror, it's all about sort of who sets up like a big Yorion turn or a big dance turn. Typically Yorion. Typically someone will put a blessing into play and then Yorion it, and that's kind of just game. They just drew 6 cards. And so like you can still come back. Your opponent does that because you can play your own blessing and you can Yorion it. It's kind of whoever does the biggest things drawing the most cards. ECD also plays a huge key part in the match. You typically want to be the one playing your ECD second if you can help it. Dance can also be very good. So you want to be Skyclave Apparitioning things like their Omen of the Seas, possibly their Treacherous Blessing, possibly their Elspeth's Nightmare. You want to exile as much of their stuff as possible so that they cannot Yorion it and they cannot dance to the Manse. When you target the Blessing with a ECD or an Apparition, it gets sacrificed, so it goes to their graveyard, so you can't exile it that way. But getting it off the battlefield is probably ideal, just because then they can't Yorion it, of which they have many, and they'll have less dances. And then also, if it gets their graveyard, you want to try and find a Nightmare, Elspeth's Nightmare if you can. Try and exile their graveyard so they can't set up a big dance. So that's what you're kind of doing. Try and control with ECD. Also, trying to control their Omens, their Doom Foretold, their ECDs, their Elspeth's Nightmares, their Blessings, especially the stuff, even their eggs or their tombs. Get those. Apparition's great at getting tombs. Just get it off the battlefield so their Yorions become useless, and then try to empty out their graveyard with Nightmare so that their dances become useless, and try to set up big turns yourself. That's how the matchup plays out. In the mirror, you want to bring in Dance. I think you want to bring in 2 Ugin. I really have not tested out Ugin nearly enough. And I haven't played the mirror a bunch. I've always won when I played it, but I haven't played it a bunch. So Dance, Ugins, Blessing, Nightmare, maybe Cling to Dust. I can see that. And Mystical Dispute makes sense too, because it hits Yorion potentially and also Dance of the Manse. So not 100% sure on Mystical Dispute, because I don't know, you end up having a lot of mana and stuff, but I think it's fine. It's like 9 cards. You have a lot of stuff to take out. So you can take out like the 3 Eliminates, the 4 Heartless Acts. That's like 7 right there. Depending if they have Shark Typhoon or not, is how much you want Glass Casket, because Glass Casketing their Skyclave Apparition is terrible. You don't want to be doing that if you can avoid it, because then they get it back and get to hit something else. Bloodchief's Thirst probably can come out. So, I mean, there's 10 removal spells right here between Act, Eliminate, and Thirst. Casket's also not very good. So it really depends if they have Shark Typhoons, then you probably want to keep in, like, I guess Heartless Act hits everything. Unless they, like, ECD a Yorion or something, that, like, almost never happens. So yeah, so you probably want to cut, like, Eliminates, Bloodchief Thirst, that's 7, and, like, 2 Heartless Acts, that's 9. And bring in those 9 cards that I mentioned, something like that. Could also, like, take out 1 Casket, keep an Eliminate, keep another Heartless Act. There's not too many creatures to worry about, right? There's Shark Typhoons, Apparitions, Yorions, and some tokens running around. So whatever of your removal suite lines up best. Sometimes Casket's nice because there's a lot of tokens lying around, and Yorion triggers and stuff, or bring advance back with Dance is important. So, there's also Emeria Call Angels, but again, like, every single one of these kills him. So, yeah, just pick your poison there. The removal. Let's see. That's the top 4 sort of decks. Against Ramp, you want to bring in the 3 Mystical Disputes. Maybe Elspeth's Nightmare. Acts as like a duress. Maybe Extinction Event. And then what you don't want against them, some amount of the removal, probably like Eliminate seems kind of bad. Eliminate Casket, something in there. Just depends what creatures they have. There's a few different lists running around. But Heartless Act should kill just about everything. Bloodchief kills just about everything, including Ugin. You got a Mauling, potentially. But maybe bring in a Dance Potentially. Could maybe bring in Baneslayer Angel. Those are kind of big maybes. I'd maybe leave those until you give them a try. I wouldn't mind having a third negate in the board. Even to the point where like I might just got like a mystical dispute for a negate. I'm trying to think, what does dispute come in against? Comes in, it's good against rogues, or it's decent against rogues. Not even that good. Decent in the mirror, still not even that good. Yeah. I guess I'll touch on the sideboard now. Maybe I should have done this before I did the ins and outs, but you can get, even if we're off by a card or something, like, you guys can figure it out. I have faith in you. I don't know if we need the fourth Treacherous Blessing. It really is the nuts in the mirror, though. Like the actual just blade stone nuts. Ugin. What about Ugin? Oh, 100% on Elspeth's Nightmare. You know what? I'm gonna do this for now. I think that's just an upgrade, frankly. Yeah. So you can move some things around if you want. I wouldn't get too crazy with it. Two negates made. I'm not 100% on, but they're the best card I can think of really against some of our bad matchups. And they even kind of do work. They kind of do work against everything. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where the deck's at. Hit me up with any questions in the Discord, and I'll see you guys out there. Deuces.